And hello, everybody. It's I, the Roguescaper. Starting a couple minutes early, but I'm just excited to get it going. Yeah, I think it is Monday, right? Yeah. You gave me a moment of hesitation there for a second, Sebastian. Yeah, it's yeah. There's so much is going on with summer. It's hard to know what day it even is, but I think it's Monday. It's Mini Monday to be precise. And today we are going to be painting the titular Scavorith, the Lord of Ruin, or I like to call him the Nerf for Nothing Centipede. He is just one of my favorite figures, honestly, from this wave. He is just incredible in his posing, his dynamics, and today we're going to get some paint on him. If you notice, I've already kind of started doing a little bit here. That's just to test some of the colors to make sure, what we're going to say is actually going to be working today. And also, most interestingly, he is bright pink. He looks like a big wad of bubble gum. I primed this in Wicked Pink from Army Painter. And we're going to kind of go into this a bit why as we go to the model. But ultimately, yellow is a very fickle color. If you're working with yellow, it is sometimes a pain if you don't know what you're doing. So today we're going to hack yellow, use some kind of color theory to our advantage to really make painting this guy nice and easy. Yellow is naturally a transparent paint, so when you paint, I have some kind of here, it naturally just doesn't cover as much as, say, like your blues or your greens or your darker colors. He's perfect this way too. I would love for someone to just paint all the eyes next bright pink. I like pink. Pink is a fun color to work with. But yellow is naturally transparent, and it is a very thin paint comparatively compared to something like let's see if I get like a blue here, which has lots of more thick pigments in it. See, just taking blue right out of the bottle, it covers a lot more fully. So we are going to be kind of hacking this model and using some fun painting techniques to really get this yellow painted nice and easy. I don't use a lot of contrast or transparent paints, but today those are going to be working toward our advantage. So if you don't have like a primer that's bright pink or an airbrush, you of course can color this color as well, and it will be just as good. It'll just take a bit longer to get this all coated. But let's just start. So I have some bright ivory here from Monument Hobbies, which is one of my favorite brands for bright colors. But you, of course, can use any similar colored paint. If you're following along with the Army Painter Heroescape set, I'm trying to think of what the color would be like. You could use the Worn Stone from there. Very similar colors. Just kind of a brighter white. And we're going to dry brush this. Essentially, we're taking that paint and removing the excess from our brush to just enough, barely shows through, and we're going to dry brush this whole thing to get all these details flushed out. Now sometimes you may not want to dry brush because it adds a bit of texture, more so than you want on your model, but this is kind of a Lord of Ruin. I figure he's going to have a bit more battle worn and damaged armor for him. See, if you notice here, I kind of went on, it was a bit too heavy. So just get a little bit more so it just barely comes off. And as we go across, it's going to catch these edges here. We're pretty much kind of creating two tones for this yellow to catch onto. And also kind of bringing out these details, so when we do some more detail work, it's going to just buff them all out. Kind of give us an idea of what we're working with here. And just going through. Hope everyone's staying cool out there. It is definitely getting hot, at least where I'm at. It's 90 degrees, but with 70% humidity, I'm swimming through the air. Hoping my Heroescape pieces don't turn into a puddle, but I don't think they will. But just don't leave them outside. And we're just kind of going against the texture here and really just buffing this up. We can do this a bit heavier as we want this yellow to appear nice and punchy. We're of course going to kind of go through and make it a little bit more rusty and worn kind of once we get these layers done. And you may have some trouble kind of underneath some of these harder reach areas. You can of course go to a smaller dry brush or just kind of do the best you can there. Yeah, this is the right now looking like the Barbie dream house colors, and I'm kind of digging it, honestly. It's sad to get rid of them. I saw someone paint the Hellforge like Kirby the other day, and I approved of that. Yeah, definitely keep the pieces out of the sun. Yeah, I heard someone who had like some of their pieces by a window, and the plastic did not like just that concentrated heat. And we're just doing this heavy dry brush. We're just going to hit over the area we already hit. Hopefully it's not still wet. But we should be good. And just removing the excess as we go around. Dry brushing is such a great tool to have in your toolkit that it's definitely something to do a lot of practice with. And it's really easy to do. It's not a hard technique, but it's definitely a useful one. We're just using a big old brush. You of course can use like old brushes if you don't have a dedicated dry brush in hand. Actually at ScapeCon, when I was teaching some painting classes, I gave everyone makeup brushes, like very fluffy. Let's see if I have any on hand. I don't have any near me, but like big fluffy, like blender brushes type of deal, and they worked really well for those gathered. You can get like a pack of those for $6 for 10 of them or whatever. So always be scouting to find good ways to use the next tool for your craft here. We're trying to get in here. We might have to go to a bit of a smaller brush just to get some of these inner details. Let's get a little bit more of this bright ivory into the dry palette here. If you notice, I have two palettes. This is a wet palette. This is a dry palette. Dry palette essentially has no extra moisture in it, so the paints don't get too thinned down. As the name implies, dry brush uses dry paint, meaning that there's no moisture in the brush nor the paint itself, which helps it to catch onto these raised edges. If you use too wet of a brush, it'll kind of create just a gloppy mess. And if you get areas that we're going to cover with, don't worry about it. We're going to go through with a darker color, so it should cover pretty easily. It's a good thing about working with pinks and yellows and whites and stuff like that. They're really easy to cover up if you make a mistake, and that's why we're kind of just doing this first. Just getting these kind of little crevices here. And you can layer dry brush. So go through a couple passes if you want some areas to be a bit more prominent or a bit more yellow. That's what I'm doing here, just making sure. I've switched to a flat brush, which are good for catching kind of large flat areas of your model, where the fluffy brush kind of does more kind of rounded areas. But ultimately, it makes a small difference, but doesn't matter that much. Double passing over everything, and making sure we get underneath the underside here as well. This is a big model. It's definitely an impressive scale. So I love working with big models. It takes a little bit more in the front end just to kind of prep it, but you don't have to use such a small detail brush to bring out all these awesome stuff here, which is really nice. Okay, so already we can kind of start to see a bit more of these details pop out here. We can see just kind of the what the sculptor had in mind when they're doing this. I love these new Roguescape models because they are so incredibly detailed. I'm looking forward to buffing them out and extrapolating all that's in there. But of course they're flexible enough that if you don't want to do all the detail work, you can do very simple stuff to get them covered as well. It's crazy how much of a difference the base primer can make. Yeah, it's it's, you know, what they say is all about that base. We're pretty much using a technique called undercoating right now, which is just we're letting the first coat of paint kind of do a lot of the work for us. I could have just airbrushed this over the top of this, but I wanted to show this part while it was painting because I felt it was pretty important. But you know, I don't have a whole lot of time here, and I don't want to spend an hour just painting this all pink just to cover it over. So you know, it's the give and take. Honestly, they sell colored primers, and if you're not ready to dive into an airbrush, it's a great investment for some other coloring techniques. I definitely use brown a lot, like leather brown, just to kind of like the pirates or things with lots of, you know, leather or fur, as it saves up so much of the process. We're going to let this dry for just half a second, just because we don't want wet paint on the next step. But essentially we're going to take this paint, we're going to use some kind of contrast or transparent paint, which is really great for covering this. Hopefully this pink will turn into some nice deep shadows, and we'll have a fun time kind of building this up here. It's kind of cool. You get a little preview. And honestly, that was more of just me doing something fast. I think we're going to make it even bolder these next couple steps. Now we're going to want to grab a bigger brush just because we have a lot of surface area to cover. You know, using a small brush on this will just take forever. Let's see what's a good size brush I got here. I want my 4, but I could use this too. Oh, and here's that makeup brush I was talking about I would use for ScapeCon. Really great. Really almost the same thing. So we're just going to grab like a bigger brush here, and we are going to use some transparent yellow from Pro Acryl. Of course, you can use things like speed paint. Really any thin down kind of contrast or speed paint will work. And just put it onto your palette, and then we are going to take it and just kind of thin it out a bit, kind of pull it away from our pile so it's not the full thing. We still want this pink to show through, and look at that, that's coming in. And we might want to do a layer of 2 for this just to really kind of maximize it, but already right off the onset we are looking really nice. See how this yellow covers it. And essentially, we're using the natural transparency of yellow to work for us instead of against us. Because if we just did this over black paint, we'd be here all day. We'd have to do 50 layers, and it would get smudgy and streaky. Instead, we're going to be able to do this in probably two coats, and it's going to look nice and vibrant. Yellow should never be used over black paint. I mean, some people will say you can. I'm a busy guy. I don't want time to layer it over and over and over. You know, there has been advancements to paint where it has a lot more stronger coverage, a lot more better pigments, but ultimately at the end of the day, the less you can, you know, work the paint on your model, the more strong it'll appear. So just sometimes simpler is better. We're using some more kind of higher art techniques with some simpler methods to really just bring this out. I'm loving how this is looking here. And just kind of getting it all because I don't want to miss any areas. Once we go through, we'll certainly start separating some more of the other elements of Scavorith. Because kind of pink or purple is the opposite of yellow. So we're kind of working in contrast here, you know, putting the contrast in contrast paint, where we're using the opposite, which is usually the best color for the shade for the model. So, you know, if you can use this for all your colors, you can do this in reverse. You know, if you're working with purple, yellow shadows. So you just there's lots of, you know, you don't need color theory to paint, but it definitely does make some things a bit easier. So I hate to cover up all these awesome details on this guy with too much paint. And if this is looking kind of bright, we're going to tone this down with some wash and some shades here in a bit, if we have time for this to dry. Just got back from ScapeCon a couple weeks ago, and I would have loved to be able to play this guy at the event. I think he would have helped me in some of my armies. There was one event that was kind of called Into the Future, where you could play all revealed units with, like, you know, proxies and stuff like that. I would have loved to proxy good old Scavorith for some of my armies. I think the Eisenachs are going to get a big boost with this guy coming out. I think he's coming out officially in August, but I think people have already started getting their pre-orders on their way. So definitely, you know, just get this guy for no other reason than just the sculpt. The sculpt is awesome. He is available with painted and pre-painted, you know, but if you ask me which one to get, of course I'm going to say get the unpainted, because it's fun. I enjoy doing this kind of stuff. And let's see, I have the box art here, just looking at that. I love that, you know, we have the kind of reference points in the art. The artists do a really good job and kind of simulating the model, and it really helps me understand where some of these highlights and lights go. I'm always looking at the artwork on the box. Because honestly, that's something I struggle with. Sometimes it's hard for me to understand how light works on certain objects. So if I have a little cheat box, a little a little something to look at, it always helps. Yeah, definitely would recommend it. You know, if you go to ScapeCon or Gen Con, both are. This will be my first year going to Gen Con, so I'm looking forward to that. Meeting the Renegade crew, and you know, seen a bunch of people go to that. ScapeCon's really fun as well. I actually taught a painting class at ScapeCon, and was taught like 22 people how to get their decker painted, which was a really fun event. I had a blast doing that. But yeah, it's a bit of a journey to get there from wherever you're at, but it's definitely worth it. My ultimate goal is to win all the events this year at Gen Con. Every single one. Regardless if I have to go against some of the top players in the world, my goal is just to win. I don't have a better plan than that, but I do want the opportunity to have a unit named after me. I think that would be pretty cool. But that's one of the kind of ultimate prizes. There's some pretty cool stuff they're offering. And we're just working our way here. I'm loving this. Nice and simple. If you remember, I did kind of a tutorial on Hellforge, and that's kind of another way to do it, where it kind of started more with browns and worked to ochres and did this. I kind of gave it a lot more of a grungy, worn down look. Which there's many roads to get to the same destination. This, I kind of wanted to start punchy and then and kind of work my way down compared to the other way around. Definitely want to get kind of on the underside. That's kind of the main thing about using this method, is you definitely don't want to miss any areas, as you know, you'll have big patches of bright pink where you want yellow to be. You of course can just do yellow right over white if you want. It's better than doing yellow over black. It just makes it a little bit less punchy, and you have to add a few more layers so it doesn't look as streaky as compared to this. So we're looking for something nice and smooth. So this is how we're looking so far, working our way through. Trying to get these little divots filled in. And just adding kind of a second layer. Because yellow is still so thin that even in this method, you could do a couple layers just to get that full strength we want. Definitely an AOA. It helps to know how to get yellow painted. As at least in those first couple sets, there was lots of yellow present, just in the models, in the colors between the Eisenecks and capes and different units. Sinithrax is all yellow. So so once it's kind of it's a really good thing to learn how to get that yellow underneath your belt. Otherwise, you're just gonna be painting forever. Back before they kind of people devised these kind of methods, it was just yellow was spoken of in terror, almost like, oh, you want to paint your army yellow? Good luck. It's been nice knowing you. But nowadays, painting technology has definitely advanced a lot more than when it kind of first started. And honestly, there's never been a more easy time to get into painting. There's so much more resources and stuff like that. Like, this was a little bit before I started painting, but like back in the day, people just had to use like wood varnish to give wash to their models, like actual just wood lacquer and stuff like that, because there was no other like pre-mixed materials. And it's still a method that could work to this day, but it's also nice being able to go to your hobby store and get exactly what you need. Redid the layout recently. Wanted to get focused a little bit more on the miniatures and the backgrounds with that. It's still in development. We still got some more new things we want to add, but I'm happy with the little bit jumping visual quality we're going for today, which I think is nice. If you ever film yourself painting miniatures, the focus is your enemy. You really have to stay alert so you just don't get out of frame or out of focus there. Okay, I'm just kind of going through with a second layer. Just really just kind of buffing this up. Let's see, so these legs here, I don't need to spend too much time on them because they have little metal attachments I noticed before. You definitely want to go around all angles to make sure you don't miss anything as well. And no patches left undone. I don't think we'll have time for it today, but this is also a great model to practice edge highlighting and edge sliding on. Oh yeah, which, for some reason it's cut off here. Oh yeah, which general would you choose, by the way? Which general would I oh, for my custom unit that I'm definitely going to win and knock it out in the first round, because my die rolls are so bad. I'm an Olar guy. I like green. It's one of my favorite colors, and Olar could use, the love that my overpowered unit would provide. Yeah, but no, I'm Team Olar for life. He's the best general. I love that he's been getting some more love with these recent waves, and I hope he keeps on getting some more stuff. I'm really like, some people were back and forth on the Krakenlings belonging to Olar, but I love it. All units should go to Olar. Is my then that would solve the battle problems because they all just went to the perfect general. I'm excited about the Krakenlings. I'm actually just kind of excited for commons in general, as we are going to, it's going to be fun to have the ability to just paint some alternate schemes a lot easier, and I think for the Krakenling, I'm going to do an Omanite from Pokemon as one of the designs. I'm going to paint all the crabs different colors if I get around to it, red, green, blue. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, so we're gonna let this sit for just a second. We don't want to overwork this paint. Let the layers dry. But you can just see we're really working our way through. We've made really solid progress in a very short time. Just just with this, I've tried to avoid kind of areas I know that are going to be painted over. But again, I got some on stuff. I'm not going to worry about it because we're going to cover it up pretty easily. You know, while we're kind of waiting for some of this stuff to go, I'm just going to start blocking in some of the metallics with black. You, of course, can just go over silver with this, but it helps me to kind of know where I'm going, and also kind of just fills in some of the lines if I keep it kind of simple here. So just filling these in with thin layers of black and kind of giving me a kind of a visual guide of where I want to go to next. I think his arms on the box are yellow. I might make them more like that flesh tone just to add some variance to it. Of course, you can keep these yellow if you like as well. Yeah, but I'm Team Olor for life. My favorite unit type are the V9 Vipers. I hope we get some more of those pretty soon, just because those are kind of like the first units I saw when I was 8 years old. I saw them and my 9-year-old brain was like, I need more of these. This is now a defining attribute of who I am. Was those little snake guys. And we're being careful not to get this black onto the rest of the model, as this will be a bit harder to cover up if the black goes on the yellow compared to the other way around. But if you do get some black on the yellow, just go kind of through the same process where you layer that up with pink and then dry brush over it. Pretty much just kind of repeat the process that we just did here, and you got to be patient with it. That's the main thing. It's tempting just to rush through and put some more paint over it, but from years of doing this, you'll just make a bigger mess. Return to the Vipers, yes, please. I have lots of ideas for cool Viper units. I'm also painting these black because I kind of just want some of these finer detailed lines to just be filled in, and to have the metal just appear a bit darker when it's applied over it. I'm just using Army Painter Matte Black, which is a really good black to work with. But yeah, I'm excited to go to. Woo, that was my kid. I'm sorry. I have 3 kids, and they like to trap and trollop around. They're all under age of 6. So where did I put that black? There we go. Trying to get this guy to a relatively finished point by the end of our time together, or at least kind of get an idea of what we want to do with him. And to kill a guy, okay. So here's my honest assertion, is that I just didn't like how a lot of the customs community just kept on throwing things to Aquila when I feel like they could have gone to other generals. And I don't like how Aquila just kind of steps on Olor's toes sometimes, and like he's the Magic Forest guy, and sometimes she gets the Magic Forest stuff. So as an Olor fan, Aquila isn't my favorite, but I honestly like her units a lot, and I like her theming and her army. I'm just personally have a vendetta against what she did. But I really like how she's becoming a lot more significant in the story because I mean she was introduced and then kind of, the game kind of ended. So it's nice to see her develop as a general. I think is really cool. People are surprised when I say I don't like fight art that much as well. I'm not a big like sci-fi techie guy. I'm more of the fantasy oriented. But he has like the best unit, so I usually end up using his stuff. But he's not my favorite guy. I think it's just because I've lost to Q9 one too many times. I'm just bitter against Q9. I love this model here because he has this really dynamic curve, really reminiscent of Classicscape. I always look at those kind of classic units, and they always have like very strong curves or dynamic shaping. And this guy really just kind of compels you to look at him, which I think is a really cool factor of him. Now he's got tons of tiny little claws that we're just kind of working our way through. Because I think patience is the key in this. I think this area on the side. Einar is my second favorite. I love a good historical. They're fun to play with. Yeah, Einar's second best. Honestly, that's one thing I'm hoping we see more of is some more Einar units in the future. I'm hoping Renegade's got some Einar up their sleeves. But yeah, Einar, you you don't follow Einar and know a lot about historical, fiction and units and stuff like that. I got a love of history from this game, so I know a lot of obscure historical stuff from just being like, what is it's the Ninth Legion, like what's the story behind that? And it's apparently an actually missing legion. So there's a lot of fun little nods and stuff like that. You could tell the people who made some of those classic historical units were fans. Even like the new stuff, like the pirates, like the Crimson Widow is based off an actual pirate. Killian Vane, they're all inspired or very closely linked to real life pirates, or most of them are at least. We're kind of putting this on a little bit thick and just kind of spreading around, just preserving these details, and being careful not to get too much onto our awesome yellow that we did here. And I'm mainly just kind of buying time, waiting for this yellow to dry up. If you're doing this at your home, feel free to paint a color and step up, get away, do something else. Definitely don't feel the need to work in colors while they're still drying. I have a little bit more practice, so I have a little bit more control of where I'm going, but definitely can feel free to take breaks when you're painting, especially when you wait for things to dry. Custom Hannibal, Barkazul Warriors, Joan of Arc, Jaguar War, I love them all. That's one video I'm scripting out currently is some historicals I love to see, and some of those are definitely showing up on the list. I'm excited to see people's variants of Scavorith. I think there's going to be some really fun, unique paint jobs. Honestly, if I had an extra model, I might paint this guy. I was thinking about painting this guy like an Iron Man red with some yellow highlights on it. I think that would look really cool. kind of in this model. But I also was thinking about doing like more of a Mega Man blue. I was kind of back and forth on it. Maybe I'll get my hand on a couple more and give some away as giveaways. I've honestly just been pretty busy lately. Just with lots of extra commission work and painting work. It's kind of how I pay to go to the cons and stuff like that. Is I just put my services to the test, and I've been painting a lot of dragoons. A lot of people have been asking me to paint those. I think I've painted 10, 11 dragoons so far, which they're fun to paint, but it's nice to be able to paint something that's not the giant bug. Well, I guess this is still a giant bug, but you know what I mean. I was sad I couldn't get into the Renegade bounty event. I wanted to face off against those superpowered teams and the team members, but I'm doing the champions, the championship, and I don't even know some of the other side events, which I'm really looking forward to. Going to be in an Airbnb with some other Heroescape content creators, and it's going to be a really fun time, I imagine. Eisniks are very fun to paint. They are they're enjoyable. They kind of hit a different part of my brain. Just they kind of you get to do some of the kind of like old school kind of like stylings on them, kind of like grim dark styling techniques to really kind of bring them alive. I love painting that. I've painted like 4 Hellforges at this point, and I've enjoyed every one of them. I was working on a game variant called Hungry Hungry Hellforge, and so I needed 4 of them, all in different colors. Visually, I honestly like the black, metal bits a bit more. It's very like sharp contrast, but I'm gonna probably go down to a dark silver for these, just to keep it like how the box art is. If I can afford it, I like to do one official variant, and then one kind of custom variant for myself, or just because I'm because I'm bored, don't have enough to paint. Which is funny if you see my pile of shame I have currently. I only want to paint the things I don't have to paint. That's kind of that's how I work. My headphones aren't charged, so I'm doing this all in silence on my end. So this is usually I have the music blaring and blasting, and so I'm more focused on what I'm doing. I'll say that, but I need to get to those tunes going. Just humming to myself in my brain at this point. Yo, Josiah, I can't wait to stay, but I just want to say hi. Always welcome to pop in, Tails. Thanks for swinging by. We're just painting up Scavorith today, getting this killer centipede all going. Boop. Alright, and let's see here. This is his kind of just, it helps to have kind of a guide of what some of these parts are because there's just so many little coils. You want to know kind of where you're going. Let's see. One of these streams, maybe I'll see if I can do kind of more of the base coat, and we can do more of a focus on some highlights. Because honestly, once we get to the highlight part, this thing really starts to come alive. Billy Joel is what you listen to. You know, I've been wanting to do this. Is a song of "We Didn't Start the Fire," but with all the Heroescape characters. You know, Scavorith, Bug Ball. Flan, but I'm not a songsmith, so that's been the problem on my end. But it's a video I've been wanting to make for a while. I think it's possible. Someone more creative than I could probably get it done. But no, I listen to a lot of Billy Joel. I listen to a lot of music, just in general. I realize I probably pain a lot when my Spotify Wrap said I listened to 150,000 minutes worth of music last year. And I'm always listening when I'm painting, so yeah, so you can do the math there. But I listen to a lot of weird stuff. I've been accused of being a hipster, and I've never fully denied the accusations. I'm going to get into a bit smaller brush here, just as I don't want to crowd up our work. These secret little corners we gotta pay attention to. Honestly, this is why I'm base coating in black, is that if I miss anything, at least we'll have kind of that shadow. Because odds are, to model this curvy, you're gonna overlook something. Okay, I think we have the idea here for now. We're gonna let that dry. I have some flesh tone, some tan flesh from Pro Acryl, as well as faded green, and I'm going to mix those together just to make a very sickly kind of flesh tone that we're going to base off of here, just for the little body parts. And that pink undertone will add a nice little bit of shading to it as well. And this is kind of why I'm putting a little bit more flesh than normal, just because I want a little bit of this color to shine through. I like the Eisenx having a tiny bit of flesh, just to remind us that there's still a little person inside. Alright. They may be a killer centipede, but they're also a person. Shocked to see so much Heroescape music. Yeah, some people have been creating some stuff. I haven't really fully dove into it, but I know some people are composing or running things through AI, I guess, to create some of it. Let's see, this is lip. Do I want to make the lip kind of this ugly skin tone too? I think so. See, that's the cool thing about painting your own models. You can kind of deviate a little bit. Like, we're still keeping like the box art, but I just wanted a little bit more of this flesh just to kind of come through. Give it some contrast. You, of course, can just paint these parts yellow, and it'll probably be easier if you do so. Just the arms look a little bit too, like, muscly and not, like, robotic. So I'm going to make that shoulder pad yellow. Take that transparent yellow. Fill that in. And I'm going to give him the yellow gloves. I try to keep these little tutorials to an hour, so we're going to get done what we can get done. We're honestly reaching a pretty good stopping point here. Not like here, but pretty soon, where we, we got at least the base layer done, and then we can work on, the next steps to the point. But I don't think this will be all dry in time to add wash. I was hoping to do it, but I just want this fully to dry. We're gonna add a bit of rust tone to give it kind of like a reddish brownish, kind of highlight that pink we applied, and do some edge highlighting in later steps. But I don't think we'll be able to do that today. But I think we've made pretty good progress considering that we are painting yellow. Again, I'm just kind of finding little areas I can do. I kind of like keeping all that yellow. I can maybe darken this here. I'm going to have to go around probably 2 or 3 times just to make sure I get all these little spindly legs. Gonna fill in some yellow here. I forgot to do. I love how this guy has tubes coming out of his bespoke eyes. Gnarly stuff. I'm just adding another layer of the skin tone. I don't think we'll do the teeth today. Let's fill in his armor plate. And keep it going. See, we're starting to get a little bit wet there. I'm starting to kind of work in areas that I probably should let dry. Again, I apologize if you can hear my kids. They are all doing a karaoke performance upstairs, so no one's going to stop that. My wife showed them all in sync today, so they've been wanting to sing that all day. I'm just kind of covering this for the sake of it. let's see if I can just get some silver on this. So my favorite silver to use is Vallejo model color. It's a very smooth silver. Of course, you can use any kind of gunmetal silver you so choose. This is my personal favorite. Army Painter also has very good silvers. I like the colors of Army Painter a whole lot, but this stuff is very smooth. We're going to go against texture here and start kind of adding some metallic to this Scavorith here. I'm trying to kind of avoid these recesses. Oh, he's looking great. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, he's getting there. We're getting this base layer all put in, and you know, once we do that, then we get to explore all the little fun bits. It's tough when you paint because the base layer is the most fun. I mean, is the most important, but it's the least fun part to do. You know, adding. I'm kind of doing a little bit of a dry brush motion here. Just to kind of add a bit of texture. Just adding the basic colors is just, you know, laying your foundation. But once you do like highlights and lighting and all that kind of stuff, shading, it really starts to kind of come alive. Trying to preserve these details inside that model, and this black undercoat is really just helping us out here. So we have a really tight corner here that I didn't even hit. You'll just want to kind of evaluate this model all over and really inspect it. Fixing up any little tiny errors or places you go into. And once you apply like a wash to this, a lot of that will be covered up. Good thing about Eisenachs is they are, you know, kind of a decroded species as is, so you can be a little messy with them, and it kind of adds to the aesthetic, is what I'd say. I have some black spatters here. I might even just keep because it looks like a little bit of rust, a little bit of burnt battle damage. We're getting there. Some of that black paint's still a little bit wet, so we gotta wait for that to fully dry. Let's see here. Let's add just a bit more yellow to some parts of the model. So I think we got about 10 more minutes left of this. We're going to go through with another pass of this yellow. Now that's kind of fully dried. And just fill in some areas we missed and brighten up the color already applied. I'm not being as heavy with it as I still want that shadow to persist, but we want this to read more as yellow than as pink or as orange. Get his little gloves. I'm trying not to get that paint we just applied kind of smearing, but also going to get the model going. Pretty much all these areas that are still pink are areas that I will have to go back and fill in. That's okay. Yeah, definitely check the underside of your model, as there's some tricky corners. Let's get some more of this metallic on the top parts that I missed. Yeah, he was looking crazy. I love him. We're going to have to work a bit more on this kind of area here, as I kind of didn't know how much of it I wanted to fill in with yellow. So we're going to have to kind of fill that in a little bit, do a bit more work, but the paint's still a bit wet. And I don't want to spread that around. Just add one more layer of this gross flesh tone. I like having a little bit of green mixed in with the flesh tone to really create this sickly looking color. We'll of course have to kind of paint the teeth. I think in the model he has like dark brown teeth, so we'll have to fill those in. And we're gonna probably do another layer of brighter silver just to really make these pop a bit more. But we're getting there. I think we kind of really did the hardest part, which is the yellow today. And everything else is just kind of detail work. Kind of figuring out what we want to do. I'm going to put like a nice gross wash in his kind of skin tone area. And let's get this all finished up. And then the last thing I just want to show real fast, he has a lot of kind of glowing blue elements. So you can kind of find some of those. You know, at a later step, we would go through and pinput these in with white. And then we would use a bit of speed paint, like prismatic bolt, and fill those in very delicately, so they have like kind of a thin glow to that. But we'll work on that later, as I don't want to work as the paint's still a little wet. And I think we're about at time. So that's kind of our result. Not bad for an hour. Of course, we have a lot more work we're going to do to really buff this out, but I am happy with our session today. Definitely be sure to you know, stay tuned for more Heroescape reveals. We got lots of stuff coming in the future. Gen Con's coming up. I'm sure there'll be some spicy stuff going there. You know, you can purchase Scavorith on Renegade's website as a, you know, he comes in his own box, both painted and unpainted. You can check me out if you want to see more Heroescape painting stuff at Roguescaper on the YouTubes. Also on I'm a lot of places, but you can definitely check me out there. And yeah, check this figure out. He's releasing in August for Boiling Intentions. He's a great paint, a great, you know, a powerful unit. We didn't talk too much about his abilities, but he is a menace on the battlefield. And I think that's going to be it for us today. You know, I hope everyone stays cool, doesn't melt into a puddle, and you all have a great rest of your day. You all take care now. Bye.